You guys want to go for a ride? Just come on in, hop on slab, and fasten your seatbelts because it's going to be a bumpy night. Sit back and rest in peace, but don't be scared.
Our man here, I'm inside a hearse. Now this is an actual hearse that has been kind of modified for tour groups. This is Scott. How you doing, Scott?
Hi, doing great, thanks.
Scott is our tour guide, all right? The company's called Graveline Tours, and what they do is they pile you in a hearse and you travel around to where celebrities have, let's say, what's the nicest way to say it?
Met their demise.
Behind me is Raleigh Studios. You can see that sort of barn building. I think it's the oldest studio in Hollywood, and it was called a lot of different things over the years, but for several years it's been called Raleigh Studios. Now, a couple of days ago, there was a tabloid article that I was mentioned in inadvertently. It was the New York Post, and it talked about an incident that occurred 30 years ago in June. And it was, of course, the murder of Nicole Brown Simpson. I already said in my last video I was glad I wouldn't have to see him again. And in fairness, I'm not going to show you his picture, but I wanted to explain this article. I'll read it to you first. It says, the infamous white Ford Bronco carrying OJ Simpson in a low-speed chase across Los Angeles after the murders of his ex-wife and her friend may be up for sale, with the hope of getting $1.5 million for the Ford Bronco. The 1993 SUV, the three owners, Simpson's former agent Michael Gilbert, and two friends of longtime pal Al Cowlings, who was behind the wheel on June 17, 1994, told it clicked. They plan to cash in on the new interest following this last week's death of the disgraced NFL legend. Before OJ passed, they say, we have always thought this was going to be the year we were going to sell because it's the 30th anniversary, Gilbert told the outlet. Who knows if we're going to be around for the 35th or the 40th? So, you know, there's the priority. But, you know, it's funny. The Bronco was, well, okay, I'll just go a little bit further in this article. The three owners told Clicked, I guess that's the column or something, that the last offer they received for the Bronco, which has been on loan to Alcatraz East, I saw it there, so I'll put a couple of pictures in here from that, Alcatraz East Crime Museum, which if you ever get to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, highly recommend. I'm not big on true crime, but that museum, you know, well, I guess I am. That was a stupid thing to say, but it's a spectacular museum, a really, really fascinating museum. So that's where it's been on loan to Alcatraz East. I hate pop-up ads. Since 2016, and it was, the last offer was $750,000 for that car. Nearly 100 million people were glued to television screens as Simpson hid in the back seat of the Bronco, which Cowlings was driving leisurely along Southern California Interstate while being followed by a convoy of police cars. Boy, what a spectacle that was. Where's the mention? The Bronco spent 17 years parked in a condominium garage in Las Vegas, where it was used to help open a sports museum. And then it's made its way to Gilbert's home. My wife didn't like it there. She wanted her parking spot back, he told the outlet. So the SUV was eventually moved to Alcatraz East. In 1996, Cowlings agreed to sell the Bronco for $75,000 to a company called Startifacts, a celebrity memorabilia shop in Las Vegas. We found that the company was going to rent the vehicle to a company in Los Angeles called Graveline Tours. That's where I come in. And they visited the final graves, they said. They were going to reenact the chase with the Bronco and then take people to Nicole Brown Simpson's grave. That trial hadn't taken place yet, and we didn't want people thinking anyone associated with OJ did this, he added. Cowlings ultimately sold the Bronco. The iconic SUV has only 32,000 miles on it. Now, I wanted to clarify the Graveline Tours thing, because that was me. I was Graveline Tours for a long time. Wasn't my company, but I ran it. And it has to do with Raleigh Studios. Actually, this whole thing does, the article. So at that time, Raleigh Studios had the offices of a film company called Troma. And if you know Troma, they make some pretty wild movies. Just very bizarre and fun movies. And Troma, the guy from Troma, which apparently was the Startifacts person, although that name was never mentioned to me, reached out to me and asked me if I was interested in doing a tour with the Ford Bronco. So I don't know what this guy, he must have been Startifacts, I don't know. But at that point, I was looking for work because my relationship with Graveline Tours ended. So I was still in Los Angeles in the between moving to London. And I was looking for work. So this guy reached out to me. So I had several meetings with him. We were going to reenact a low-speed chase on the 405 freeway, but honestly, we were considering working together and doing an OJ Simpson tour, of the locations in Brentwood in the white Bronco, which, you have to admit would be pretty wild to say you've been in the Bronco and see those locations. Now, I am glad it fell through. I'm not playing moral high ground like, I shouldn't have done it. Well, I was considering it. It just never worked out. So it was Troma Studios that owned the Bronco, or at least they represented it. They said that the Bronco was downtown somewhere and it was all 4 flat tires and covered in dust, and it was just sitting there for quite a long time. So it was only about a year or so after it happened, so I don't know how it could have disintegrated so quickly. But he said it did, and they wanted to do something with it, and then ultimately that conversation just fizzled.
A while back, the current owners of the Bronco were trying to sell it on Pawn Stars.
At the time of the Bronco chase, I was OJ's agent.
Amazing.
There's some people that were going to sell the Bronco to a company called, I think it's Graveline Tours, and they were going to go up and down the freeway, go by the murder site, and I just thought that'd be classless.
And again, they brought up our name. I just think it's fascinating that these guys thought something else was not very classy, whereas they're waiting for the 30th or the 35th anniversary to sell the thing. So no moral high ground. Not for me, not for anyone else.
So I wanted to clarify that this company called Graveline Tours was me. I'm the one that had meetings with them here at Raleigh Studios, and that conversation just ended. We never ended up doing a tour. I'm now, in retrospect, I'm kind of glad that we didn't do it, because that would have been really thumbing my nose in their face. But people think I do that anyway. So I just wanted to point that out.
While I'm talking about it, Graveline Tours was pretty iconic. It was the first of any tour of its kind before people were doing cemetery tours, or every city had a, true crime tour. This company was started in the 80s by my boss, Greg, and it was the first and, in my opinion, the best of them all. The old hearse that we drove, although it broke down all the time, looked really good, but the tour ended up being iconic. You could see, for example, these clips from different shows.
Zoe, hey, ready to go?
Go where?
We have a date, Graveline Tour. We're gonna ride around in a hearse and see where all those famous people got killed.
It's weird, because the last time I was in L.A., and this has been going on for a few years, they have like a Graveline tour now where they showed you where famous murders happen.
That's the hottest thing. Rather than where the living celebrities are, they take you by where someone died.
Right.
And they drive you around in a hearse.
It's cool. It's a good idea.
Yeah, it does incredibly well.
Welcome to Life in the Fast Lane, where you're invited to rest in peace and experience the death styles of the rich and famous.
That's where Janis Joplin overdosed in 1970.
On this tawdry trip, you're not a sightseer, but a mourner. And your guide is Director of Undertakings, Scott Michael.
I mean, you see about 80 places in Hollywood where famous deaths, sins, and scandals happen.
So I'm out this morning walking in Beverly Hills. I do this every day to keep myself in shape. And there's a car going by. It's a hearse. Have you heard about this now, the Graveline Tours, where you go to places in Hollywood where famous people have died? I mean, have you ever heard of anything more ridiculous in your life? I mean, here are people riding around in a hearse.
Graveline even ended up in the game Trivial Pursuit and was paid homage to in Leprechaun 2 and even The Simpsons.
Welcome, Death Seekers. I am Baron von Kodestein, your substitute usher into the dark side.
Is there going to be a bathroom stop?
When are we going to see the death houses?
Next on the Springfield Death Tour is the home of Marge and Homer Simpson, also known as H. Diddy and his murder hoe.
Go away!
Anyway, Troma Studios, Raleigh Studios, and Graveline Tours. This is the extent of our relationship in the tabloids. It's interesting to be in the tabloids again. Still occasionally through Dearly Departed, we ended up in them. And yeah, so there you are. That's my explanation. And for the record, One of the saddest disappearances was the time machine. There was a time switch that I took a picture of, and I loved that thing so much. My friend Donna and I, because this is my neighborhood, there's Paramount Studios across the street, and I live just maybe a block from here, so we used to walk Decker through here. But there was a time machine, which was a time switch, which timed the light switches here, the traffic lights. And I'll put a picture of myself when I took a picture of myself with it, and it's gone forever. Probably just for the metal, it was taken away. Very, very sad. But I did one. If you see the Thelma Todd video I did, there's still a time switch over in Malibu, and yeah, very, very sad.
You heard me.